I think the best metaphor to kick off this review would be that Capcom, much like Umbrella, are scientists of their own creation, as what they've crafted with Resident Evil 8 Village is the foundation of Resident Evil 7 and added strands of RE4's DNA. Does it work though? Let's find out.
All that's left? There is no one left! Boys, what the hell was that? We thank you for waiting.
Let's see how special you are. Ethan Winters.
So Resident Evil Village is a sequel to Resident Evil 7. We are Ethan Winters, 3 years after the Baker incident, who is now living in Europe with his wife Mia and daughter Rose. However, one night Mia is shot to death by series staple Chris Redfield and his soldiers. Chris takes Rose, and the next you know, Ethan wakes up in a village full of werewolves and vampire ladies. The game has a thrilling opening battle in which you've got to survive against dozens of Lycans and this big huge wolfman with a hammer. The opening certainly doesn't hold your hand. Thankfully they get called away, and then you'll meet the leader of the village, Mother Miranda, and the Four Lords. The Four Lords govern parts of the village, and this makes up the 4 chapters to the game, each with their own sub-genre take on horror, and have their own gruesome boss character that you'll face. First is the iconic vampire gal Lady Dimitrescu, who is the ruler of the castle overlooking the village. This chapter is your classic gothic style. You got dungeons, zombies in rags, lots of Resident Evil 1 style puzzles. Then it's on to Donna Beneviento, the woman who controls the little creepy doll. This chapter is set within a brilliantly detailed haunted house and is the closest to the series' original horror style. I found this to be the creepiest section of the game. I don't want to spoil too much, but it's one hell of a ride in this house. Creepy puzzles, gloomy corridors, ghostly mind games, scary dolls. This is least of what you can expect as well. Next lord is Salvatore Moreau. This guy is like the hunchback of Notre Dame became a deformed fish. This is without a doubt the weakest chapter in the game though. I'd say the genre of horror it most closely resembles would be none. This is more like a Jaws-inspired thriller. Moreau turns into a giant man-eating fish monster, and you simply have to traverse through this lake without him catching you. The problem is, this game just isn't really built for platforming. The section doesn't really do anything to make it feel like a thrill ride as the other chapters did, and it doesn't really introduce anything new into the game. It felt like the most rushed of the 4 chapters. Thankfully, its saving grace is the battle against Moreau at the end of the section, which is pretty cool, and it's very short, so it doesn't hinder the pace of the overall game. Finally, you'll go up against Heisenberg, who resides in a large factory. This guy has control over electric currents, making him able to manipulate metal. His chapter introduces these metal zombie grunts, kind of remind me of flesh pounds from Killing Floor. This section is very much your gory horror. Factories, lots of metal, Frankenstein-like experiments, that sort of thing. Let's go back to the first section though. This is the area that got the most press. It was all in the trailers, Lady Dimitrescu fan art spread all over the internet, and rightfully so, as I think it's also the best representation of the game. That's not to say that the rest of the game isn't as much worth seeing as it certainly is, but Castle Dimitrescu is the best example of Resident Evil Village getting all of its components right. It's the largest section in the game, outside of the entire village itself. It's got multiple routes, lots of brain-teasing puzzles, and a 9-foot tall, dazzling apex monster stalking around trying to find you. The castle is the pinnacle of RE8 for me. It's single-handedly more iconic than any single location from RE5, RE6 and RE7, and will set the bar very high for future entries. The village itself is also a place to behold. RE8's locations are all connected by a sprawling village hub, which contains lots of collectibles, side passages, and other smaller things to discover. This village has been torn asunder by the Lycan Horde, and it's a location that feels like it's on the edge of extinction thanks to the award-worthy amount of detail sunk into it all. This detail has a high payout, as one thing you'll notice is RE8 rarely uses many jump scares. Instead, it's the atmosphere, the shapes of the environments, what your eyes are drawn to in the backgrounds that build this tension and spookiness of the game. And it's also thanks to Capcom's terrific work on the graphics of RE8 that makes it all work. The lords of the village, the werewolves, the dreary castle upon the cheerless mountains. Resident Evil 8 is without a doubt the best looking Resident Evil game to date. Resident Evil Village has re-injected so many game design elements from RE4 back into this world, and it's fantastic. Your inventory goes back to the style of Leon's case, being able to upgrade it to carry more. Every item has its own size, meaning no longer with a super-sized grenade launcher will it take up as much space as a small key. The system gives you so much freedom, no longer worrying about backtracking to the last inventory box to grab that item you need. Those days are gone here, and it's so refreshing once again to not have that worrying factor. The merchant character is back. This time it's a large man named the Duke, who not only appears out of nowhere to sell you stuff, but actually plays a role in the game's story, helping Ethan out and guiding him towards the truth. The Duke perfectly displays the charisma and fun poured into all the cast of the village. Their semi-serious but cheesy Resident Evil style, which was kind of missing from Resident Evil 7, and it's this what makes RE8 such a memorable delight. As for a few recommendations, I suggest turning movement camera acceleration and aiming camera acceleration off in the options menu. This will make the gunplay feel less slow and floaty. If you want even tighter gunplay, turn camera wobble off as well. Next, don't feel ashamed for turning aim assist on. The enemies in this game are some of the fastest in the series, dodging your bullets and pouncing around. Aim assist will automatically fixate your aiming reticle towards the center of your target, and then you can just push up slightly on the analog stick to get in your headshots. Otherwise, you may find yourself mostly going with body shots in this game, with how much enemies like to move about compared to the usual zombies, and this will cause to waste more ammo than needed. But these are just my recommendations. Resident Evil 8 doesn't have the best selection of customizable options, but what it does have is greatly appreciated. So you've battled through multitudes of creepy gothic monsters, defeated the 4 lords of the village. Now it's time to face Mother Miranda and rescue Rose, whilst uncovering all the reasons behind Miranda's motives and the secrets hidden within not just the village, but our character Ethan all along. The end of Resident Evil 8 was a great tie-up of all the plot points started in this game and Resident Evil 7. It had high stakes and well-achieved consequences. Even a really fun action-heavy sequence towards the end that only lasts a brief while, but gave me a really nostalgic rush similar to the action-heavy past of the series. All in all, the ending won't leave you disappointed at loose ends, a little like RE7 did. After the campaign, you'll unlock a slew of bonus features, like behind the scenes videos, character models to view, and plenty of reasons to replay Resident Evil 8 to unlock new super weapons and infinite ammo mods for your guns. Then there's the unlockable Mercenaries mode, a kind of challenge game in which you've got to kill so many enemies in a short area of the game to rack up a high score. It's unfortunately not as deep as some previous iterations of Mercenaries. It would have been nice to have seen some other characters present in this mode, some new enemies or locations outside of RE8 present, but still it's a great mode for you to able to freely let loose your monster killing skills in an arcadey fashion. For me, Village was the best of both worlds. It had enough haunted houses, gothic castles, vampires, werewolves, witches and beyond to keep the game always entertaining. Its cast always a delight to watch, and its gameplay loop had all the benefits that made Resident Evil 4 so great to play. And while Salvatore Moreau's section in the lake isn't as up to par as the rest of the game, Resident Evil 8 was still an incredible ride from beginning to the very end. So many fun twists, so many surprises, so much delight when playing it. I was always having fun with the gunplay, different styles of horror it draws from, and always encapsulated in the game's plot and characters, which had the perfect Resident Evil balance of over-the-top B-movie quality and serious tone. Resident Evil Village is a game I'm going to go back to straight after this review to possibly try and platinum it because it was simply that awesome. One of my favourites in the franchise. I give Resident Evil 8 Village a 9 out of 10.